What's up, everybody? Sorry, my voice is cracking. Just taking my daily walk. Did plan on waiting to do it in the day, but my medication makes me so darn tired that it's hard to stay awake. So I get home from my therapy and take a nap, and then it's dark. So today, this is part 5 of my mental health journey. I'll be talking about depression and how I was dealing with that and still dealing with it. I'm much better now than I was in the past. So if you've gotten from part 1 to 4 and you watch those, you'll understand where I'm coming from. So with all that stuff that I've been dealing with, just made me really depressed. And just because I felt like I had no friends, I was by myself. My anxiety made it to where I couldn't drive, couldn't go anywhere. And I always felt like a failure. And I always felt like just having a normal life was impossible for me. And hardest part was I've always felt that way. And then I'll get a second wind, so to speak. And that would be motivated. And I'll go and get a job. And hold on, someone's coming. Never mind. I'll just turn around. And anyways, what I was saying, I'm sorry. I'd get motivated and I'll get a job, and then I'll fuck it up and lose the job. And then my brain just is like, see, you can't do anything to help yourself. And I worked several jobs, mostly warehouse jobs, and factory jobs, things like that. But with my autism and learning, processing, it makes things a lot difficult. Then started getting panic attacks every day and made work really hard because it was very debilitating. And so I'd get motivated and want to get out of this rut that I'm in because I'd feel so depressed. And then I'd go out and get a job, and it just wouldn't work out. And I'll do it again, and again and again. Just a good example. I applied. I ain't gonna say the company, but I applied at a paint manufacturing company. It's a factory, and it's where I was a batch maker, and which basically means I just mix the paint. That's this big factory. It's not like an actual store. It's like there's pipes and boilers, and you have to you mess with chemicals and things like that. And I was having a lot of time because there's a lot of things and numbers that I had to press into remember, and it was just too much in my brain. I tried as hard as I could to try to process everything, but I just remember a few things, and then I'll forget the rest, things like that. And eventually the boss pulled me aside, and we came to basically a mutual agreement that this job wasn't the best place for me. And I told him that I was going through a lot of mental health problems, at the time. And it's really cold outside right now. It's freaking freezing. Anyways, I digress. The job before that, I'm going to come back to Sherwin-Williams' story here in a bit. But before that, I used to work at another company, another factory that manufactures air filters. And worked there for about 3 years. And it was a really harsh environment. It was, we'd work on, it was like a manual, there was like a machine, but it was like a manual machine. So, so you had to like manually make the filters and then put it into the machine. I didn't do that though. I was the boxer. I'd put the filters in the box, cardboard box, and I'd make the box. And I'd get the frames off of the shelves because it's like a warehouse with a fork truck and like a bunch of other stuff. There's tons of tasks I had to do, and it took me a while. But the work environment itself was very, very toxic. The workers would call me names and shit. I don't even want to get into it, honestly, but they're basically bullies. And but they'd say really harsh things. And it never really, I mean, it did get to me, but eventually I just got used to it and just like, yeah, whatever. And it was a tough job, especially in the summer, 'cause down here in Illinois it gets really hot and humid, and there's no AC. And so we work in this like sweat shop basically, and it was hard, and it was such a toxic environment. I almost got into a fist fight 3 or 4 times because they'd bully me so bad. I'd get so angry that I'd get, we'd almost fight. And then I started having those panic attacks. Not from that, but that's when I had the first panic attack that triggered the health anxiety, and it was just so debilitating. That's when the whole panic attack started, and it became so debilitating, and that workplace was so toxic and horrible, and the work was just hard. I mean, my back I was 8 hours a day. It was hard work. And I don't mind hard work, I actually like it, but it is mostly the toxicity of the place. There's like sexual harassment, OSHA violations, everything, you name it, is terrible. And so eventually my anxiety got so bad that it was difficult to even leave the house. And then I just got tired of being treated like shit. And so it'd be days when my anxiety is so high that I just didn't go to work. I'd call in sick. Gotta go in now. It's kind of cold. I'm freezing my ass off. Be right back. I don't know why I said I'll be right back. It's a freaking video. But anyways, taking off my coat. So I focused a lot of time on just self-motivating and trying to think positive despite all the negativity that I've gone through in my life. And it's just been really hard to do, to have like an optimistic mindset, because you kind of expect the worst. And I finally ended up getting a car after, after so many years. Ended up getting a car, and I was super, super, super nervous to drive at first. And I first would drive with my mother in the passenger side, and getting a drink of some soda. Sorry about that. I would eventually start going out with my mom in the passenger side, like I said, and drive with her, and it'd help a little bit with my anxiety, actually a lot of bit. Eventually got to where I could drive on my own, and get that glare out. And you know, it was a big accomplishment for me. I had a Nissan Altima 2018, I think. It's a nice white car. And I was really happy, especially. I never really drove any place that I was unfamiliar with. I went to the store and work, which luckily work was probably like a mile away, and it was really easy to remember. But even with the GPS, because it had a built-in GPS, even with the GPS, it was, you know, I'd still get nervous about getting lost, because if it's unfamiliar, I have a hard time processing, and if I have a hard time processing, then I'm afraid I'll get in a wreck, you know? And eventually, one day, I was driving to the store, and I ran a red light. Didn't even know I did it until after I did it, and T-boned another car that was turning, and the amount of the feeling of like failure is like in my brain. It's just like, see, you can't. There's something wrong with me, you know. Like there's something wrong with me. In terms of like I can't seem to do the things that normal people could do. I have trouble processing things, and it's like if my brain is thinking about stuff, it can't process anything else that's going on, and that's kind of true with everybody. But mine seems to be like a lot worse. At least it seems that way. I don't know, but that's what I mean. Is like it's hard to explain. That's why when I was diagnosed with autism, I was so excited, because I'm like, well, now I could understand why I feel this way, you know? Because before all that, I didn't know I had autism, high functioning autism, Asperger's, but they changed the name. But anyways, I got very, very depressed because all that work just felt like it was for nothing. And then I ended, because of my anxiety attacks were so frequent and debilitating, I ended up losing my job at Smith. So I was just at rock bottom, and I was always smoking cigarettes, but I'd just sit at home and smoke and drink heavily every day. And not just beer, but like hard whiskey and liquor and stuff, which is really bad. I don't recommend doing that. But just being honest. And I just lost all motivation because I genuinely felt like a failure in life. There's no hope for me. And it got to the point where I had suicidal thoughts just about every day. But I was too afraid to go through with it. But I just wished I wasn't alive to feel the things that I felt, because every day just felt like the same day. Just pain, and it was not really, really hard time. And I was just, it was impossible to get motivated just to do anything. It was hard to get out of bed. It's hard to shower. It's hard to eat. I just stopped caring. I just really numb. And eventually, I was like, after a lot of just self-talk, I guess, or just willpower that I had left to muster up, I got a different job at the paint company, another factory job, and now we're going back to where we were on the factory, the second factory job. Um, it was a really good workplace. I don't have anything. Actually, it was a fantastic workplace. Um, sorry about the camera there. I would go into work. You'd have these gloves you'd wear because you mess with chemicals and all kinds, and you have to wear a face mask, like a gas mask, because there's pigments in the air and stuff, and there's all these pipes, and it's really cool. I like that kind of stuff. I love the old factories with the pipes and the boilers and all the factory shit, and the wires. If you could look at some of my artwork, it's I do a lot of factory stuff. But anyways, I worked there for about 8 months, maybe. And like I said, it's just processing again. I'd get my hopes up. I'd finally get on track. Like, yeah, I have a job now. I'm getting my life together one step at a time. And there's just so much to comprehend. Because you have to remember a bunch of numbers. Because every pigment, you get a recipe, essentially. Or a document that tells you all the different materials and stuff like that you add to the giant tub, but it isn't named. They're numbers, and you have to go to these pipes and adjust the pipes. And anyways, I don't need to go all into that, but there's a lot of stuff you have to remember, and it's been many times where I'd make a mistake and wouldn't realize I made a mistake until after I made the mistake. Like, it's hard to explain. Like, I'll do something dumb. Like, why'd I do? It's like this. Have you ever like put like your phone in the fridge or something? Just something like crazy like that. Like you wake up, and you're like groggy or something, and then like you're gonna go get a drink of water from the fridge, and you take the drink of water and you're on your phone, and then when you go to put the water away, instead of putting the water in the fridge, you put your phone in the fridge, and then you're like, geez, what the hell's wrong with me? It's kind of like that. It's like you do something stupid, and then after you do it, that's when you realize that you made the mistake. It's not to the extent where I put a phone in a refrigerator, but that's a good like kind of example of kind of what it's like for me. And yeah, the job just didn't work out, and it was really hard because I just went right back to where I started, and that's just been the story of my life. I take one step forward and I go 30 steps backwards, and at that point I damn near gave up completely. Just because I was just tired of the pain, and sorry, it was just got a lot worse, the depression after that. I became like so numb that I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to go anywhere. I just wanted to just sit in my apartment and just let time pass. And I was very suicidal at the time. Thankfully, I didn't go through with it. Again, I was drinking quite a bit, and chain smoking all day, every day. Um, yeah, and like everything that I tried, every time I try get into a relationship, it won't work. Every time I try to get a job, it fail. Every time I try to get a car, I get in a wreck. And it's I just hate the way my brain works. Wish I had a normal brain. Um, but I still painted, you know, because that was the only thing that, I don't know, felt natural to me. So at one point I was like, hey, I'm gonna try to become an artist, you know. Even though I had no motivation because I was so depressed, I'm like, maybe I'll try that, you know. And started going on Facebook and sharing my stuff, and I get some likes here and there and stuff. But just been feeling numb inside. And I was like that for literally a year. Just drinking and chain smoking and just in this really dark place. And then eventually, for whatever reason, I decided to get a job at Jewel, which is a grocery store. And so I was at a grocery store now as working produce, working with vegetables. You know, I'd stock the vegetables and the fruits and stuff. And I met this girl. And I'm not going to say her name, cause, just for privacy reasons, you know. But I met this girl. And I was... she was really cool. I was in a freezer. Because all the produce and stuff was in like a freezer. And so I was in the freezer getting the produce and stuff, and the girl came in, and we like locked eyes, and she was beautiful. I thought she was really pretty. And she kind of gave the impression that she kind of thought the same thing just by her body language. But I was just like, nah, she could just be like really nice. And then because I was so depressed and shit, like I wasn't really looking for a relationship because my mindset, you know, I think I'm gonna fail at everything. And when I was out working, she said something like, because she worked in the floral department with flowers, and she said something like, these flowers look nice. You should get them for one of these for your girlfriend. And I was like, it was kind of funny because at that point I was like, okay, I think she's trying to scout and see if I'm single in a kind of a sly, sneaky way. It was smart. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not looking for anyone. And we just talked and chat for a little bit, and she was real sweet and nice. And eventually I walked back and kind of regretted that I said I wasn't looking, because I thought she might have been interested. And so I literally walked back and I can't remember what I even said, but I just said I can't remember what I said actually, but I said that fuck, I can't remember what I even said. But she ended up oh yeah, she wanted to play a game, Dead by Daylight, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. And I was like, yeah, I've never played that game. And so I asked for a number so that I could add her on, so I could call her, and also have her add me to her friends list on the PS5, so I could play Dead by Daylight. And we had a lot of fun, and we laughed because I was really bad at the game. Like really bad. I don't like that game. I'm not very good at it. And then we went on a date. We ended up going, I think it was bowling. It's either the bowling or like an arcade. But yeah, I think it was bowling. And we had a great time, a lot of good chemistry. She seemed to understand me, and she had so much kindness and stuff. And long story short, I ended up texting her just telling her about my mental health, because I wanted to bring that up before we got any further into the relationship. And it was literally like we just became, a few days passed, but we just became like boyfriend and girlfriend. And I wanted to tell her, like, I have autism, and because I at that point had been diagnosed, because I started seeing a therapist once I started having suicidal thoughts, once I told my mother about it. And I told her that, like, I struggle with a lot of things, I just want to let her know that, because I didn't want to be a burden on anybody, because every other relationship that I had just didn't work out. And because of who I am, I guess, or not, that sounds dramatic, but just because I have so many, I didn't have a car. I have a hard time holding a job. I'm not a reliable person, and that's not really something that people look for. And so I wanted to tell her that I have a lot of struggles and stuff like that, because I felt like it was something that she would need to know. And she was really understanding, and compassionate, and everything just worked. Even prior to meeting her, this is a true, honest to God story. Prior to meeting her, I was going into Jewel. There was an old lady that came up to me, just randomly, and she said, "Boy, you're really handsome," old lady. I was like, "Oh, thanks." I was outside smoking a cigarette on break, and she said, "Boy, you're gonna find the right woman real soon." And I was like, "Oh, I appreciate that." She's like, "Yeah, no, I'm serious. She's gonna come. You need to quit that habit, though, but she's gonna come, and she's gonna be the one." And then literally the next day was when I met the girl. And so it's really weird looking back. I told her, and she thought it was really weird. Not weird in a weird way, but like wow, that's crazy type of thing. And so she helped me with a lot of stuff. You know, she understood that I have anxiety. She's seen my panic attacks. That was embarrassing, but you know, I'd come over to her place. She drove because I didn't have a car at the time, which I was embarrassed, and I was terrified that her parents would think that I'm a lowlife or something. You know. But I eventually met her parents and her grandparents, and they're really down to earth and cool. And I came like acquainted with the family, and they felt like a part of I felt like a part of their family. And she met my family, and we'd laugh and you know. And for once in my life, I was like, I'm actually happy. You know, I mean, I have a job. It's kind of crappy, but it's a job. And it gave me hope that I have a future in terms of, you know, maybe I'm not defined by my mental illness. That, you know, it just felt good for someone to understand. And but a part of me did worry that I'd still be a burden, you know, because there's only so much people could do for you. And so like I knew like I need to get a car. You know, need to do that. The anxiety was just so high. And that it was difficult even when I had the motivation to do it. And we'd talk every day, and the relationship got serious. And we talked about marriage one day, and I was hesitant because of how I am with the learning processing, that I at least want to get a car and you know, a more better job and take care of my mental health before I consider like kids and marriage and stuff. And she understood, but it was something that she was really passionate about, that she wants in her life. She's a very driven person, and that's okay, you know. And so eventually things started to become different. You know, we wouldn't be talking as much. And I don't even know exactly what went wrong. But I think she was going through a hard time. I'm not going to say what it is, because again, I don't want to like intrude on her private life. But she was going through a hard time. She had a loss and I was trying to do the best I could to make her feel better. And I said something which in my mind seemed okay. And she didn't take it the same way that I had intended. And it hurt her. And that was never my intentions. Ever. And so then eventually think she realized that, that I'm not the right person to be with. Just because, I have a lot of things I need to take care of in terms of mental health and take on like responsibilities and stuff. And and that was really hard because although I 100% agree with her, and it was just hard because I was right back at square one again. Because it's one thing to sit with no hope or no sense of hope and no purpose. That's easy because it's like you've accepted it, so you're just like, okay. But it's another thing to feel like you're finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel and you're with someone who's beautiful and compassionate and loving, and you see a future with that person and you finally have happiness, and then all of a sudden it's gone for the same reason that you lose everything else in my life, my job and my car. And I'm not mad at her, and I don't blame her. It's not her fault. I understand where she's coming from. But it's just really difficult. And then my anxiety was also really bad at the time. So I was very, very depressed because I was devastated. And so I was really depressed, and my anxiety attacks were coming back. And so it was frequent enough to where I had to actually, they ended up taking me from produce to grocery. And the lady, the manager that was working the grocery, was just an asshole. I'm not gonna go into it because this video is already long enough, but because I was so depressed and anxious and everything that was going on, normally I would have just been like, yeah, whatever, but I got so mad I just walked out. Because a part of me I become self-sabotaging when I get to a certain level of depression. Because this is really dark, but when I feel like I don't want to live anymore, I'm not afraid of sabotaging things because it makes that process easier. It makes it easier for me to go through with something like that. You know what I'm talking about. So when I get super depressed, nothing is, I don't know. But I lost my job that day too. And at the time, we actually didn't break up. We separated. She needed space. And then she ended up breaking up with me shortly after. And that's surprisingly was kind of my tipping point. because I realized that if I don't have anything to live for, then I shouldn't be afraid of anything, right? Because if I'm not afraid to die, then why the hell am I afraid to drive or, you know, do the things that I need to do? And so in a weird way, that mindset, that dark place motivated me. And I wanted nothing more than to get better and then heal, because I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to find someone special as the last girl I was with and myself be my own downfall. So that's when I started the therapy group. Tomorrow is the last day. It's a 3-week program, and since then I'm not suicidal anymore. Haven't been for quite some time. Anxiety's gotten much better. I think the medication is doing most of the work, but I've learned a lot of coping skills, and just sharing my feelings and thoughts with people who are going through similar situations has helped a lot too. And yeah, I'm on the path to improvement. Part of the reason why I'm doing this vlog, because I do not want to return to the place that I was at for a 4th or 5th time, you know. And even if I do, I'll vlog that because it's my life, you know. And one day I'm going to be somebody. I don't know what that somebody is, but it's not going to be the person I am now. And I want to be able to look back and see all the progress. And I'm doing much better. I don't want anyone to worry. But yeah. Sorry this is such a long video. And sorry I was there were so many pauses. It's really hard to talk about, and I want to make sure I'm saying the right things. And anyways, that's my story. I think now I'll start vlogging the actual things that I do to better myself, because these past, this is part 5 now, is just talking about what I've gone through so you guys understand. And now I'm gonna start filming the steps that I'm taking. And I hope it's a journey that you join me with. You know, leave a comment. You know, it really helps me stay motivated to see people, you know, rooting for me, so to speak. But anyways, thanks for watching, especially if you watch this whole thing. This is quite the video, and I know my videos aren't very good quality. I know that. So I appreciate if you made it through this video and just hearing my story. Love you guys, and have a good night.